So the purpose of this video is to show you how to record your band in Reaper. And it's not going to require that you know how to use Reaper at all. I'm going to assume that you just downloaded it and all you want to do is record your band or your song using Reaper. We're also going to just focus on recording audio, not MIDI. Although we might just add some MIDI strings at the end. So when we first open Reaper, it should look like this, with our tracks going over here, our arrangement window going over here for our MIDI and audio items, and down over here is our mixer. Right above it is the transport, letting us know which bar, and the transport buttons over here. Now the first thing I want to do is set up our song tempo, which you could do right over here. Now if we don't know the tempo we want to use, we could tap it by clicking over here. Just tap to the beat at any tempo we want to use. But I happen to know the song we're going to record is 68 beats per minute. So I'm just going to type it in right here. And to make some room in our project, let's hide our mixer. We'll go up here to the View menu and deselect our mixer, giving us more room for our tracks and our arrangement window. And next, we want to make sure our computer audio interface is being seen by Reaper. So we'll go up here and choose Audio Device Settings, which show up over here, and make sure the computer audio interface you're using shows up over here. And I've also set up my sample rate at 48 kilohertz and the buffer size at 128, which will keep the latency a bit lower, making it easier for our band to perform. Then I want to go to the audio panel where we can name our inputs on our audio interface. This step can be skipped, but it's easier to remember which mics are plugged into which inputs if we give them names in here. I'm going to click this checkbox and go into here. And here we could see all our inputs on our audio interface. But I'm going to start over, so we'll select all and remove them. Then we're going to add just the ones we need. Now I want to use all my inputs for the drum tracks, so we're going to record some scratch tracks for the drummer to play along with as our first pass. If you want to record your band completely live, you're going to need enough inputs on your interface to do that. So I'm going to add an input over here, double click it. I have a guitar mic plugged in over here to input 1. So I'll name it, make a new one. My vocal is plugged in over here. We'll name it vocal. And now we have two inputs labeled that we could use to record our scratch tracks. Now later, we're going to rename these when we record our drums. We just need these two for now to put down a scratch guitar and a vocal. So now let's create two tracks to record those scratch parts. We'll double click over here to create a new track, which we could use for the guitar. Let's name it. And double click again to create another track for the scratch vocal. And we'll name this one as well. So now we'll put this track into record, set our input over here. Notice it's already set to the guitar, but we could also choose vocal. But we'll choose guitar for this one and vocal for this one, right here. Both recorded mono. Let's go back to the guitar and set the record level for the guitar. Now I'm micing the acoustic guitar pretty similar to this, with a condenser mic about 6 to 12 inches away from the sound hole and pointed at a bit of an angle. And I'll have the guitar player play, and we'll see the level over here on our meter. Now we can see it's recorded a bit too loud. I want the peaks to be somewhere in between -18 and -12. So on the preamp where the microphone is plugged in, I'm going to bring it down a bit. Right about there looks perfect. Somewhere in between -18 and -12, at least for the peaks. So that looks pretty good. Let's do the same thing for the vocal. Put it into record. Again, it's set up with our input where the vocal mic is plugged into, and we'll have our singer sing with the guitar. And we'll check the level over here, so the peaks are somewhere between -18 and -12.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going.
Again, it's a bit too loud. So again, I'll bring down the preamp where the vocal mic is plugged into to keep the level between -18 and -12 for peak.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow, windows open, you are basking with your hand out on the wind.
Right about there looks perfect. So now we'll set up our click track so they can perform the scratch tracks on tempo, so the drummer can play to them later. We'll go up here and turn this on. We can right click it to adjust the volume in here, right over here.
Easy rider on the highway.
I think that volume works. So now we're ready to record our scratch parts right in here. We can hit the record button over here, or use the keyboard shortcut Control R on the PC or Command R on the Mac. Let's give it a shot. And notice right at the end, I'm going to turn off the click track as they want to slow down the ending of the song, not have it locked to the click. So right at the end, I'm going to turn off the metronome right from here. Let's go into record and record this part.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow, windows open, you are basking with your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway, shade of leisurely goodbyes, in your terry cotton sweater. On this moment I depend. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
And again, I turned off the metronome at the end so I didn't have to lock to a click, and they slowed it down naturally, which the drummer can follow along, as we can turn off the click track for the drummer as well. So now we have our scratch guitar and a vocal for our drummer to play along with. Let's take our tracks out of record and get ready to record our drums. But first, let's add some markers to the song so we can see where the parts of the song are. Let's zoom in right here, and right at bar 3 should be our intro. So I'll hit Shift M, which adds a marker right here where we can name it. Then at bar 5 is the verse.
Highway.
Shift M, We'll name it verse 1.
Highway.
And the chorus is right around here.
With your hand out on the wind.
Shift M. And the next verse is over here.
Pink azaleas by your driveway.
But I'm noticing there's 2 extra beats around bar 15, so I'm going to add 1 2/4 bar and then go back to 4/4 right after. So the verse can start at bar 18. So let's go to bar 15, hit Shift C, and let's change our time signature for 1 bar to 2/4. Then at bar 16, we'll add another one that goes back to 4/4 to keep our bar lines in line.
So that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway.
Then at bar 18 is verse 2.
Driveway.
Our chorus is over here.
On this moment I depend.
Chorus 2. Then we'll go to the outro.
Folded at the corner.
So right here is our outro where the tempo slows down. So now we have markers for each part of our song, making it easier to jump around. So now we'll record some drums. I'm going to record a kick, snare, 2 tom tracks, a pair of overheads, and a pair of rooms. 8 inputs altogether. So before we create these new tracks, let's change the inputs in our preferences. So you can go back here, under audio, and change our names of our inputs over here to where our mics are plugged in on our computer audio interface. Input 1 will now be the kick. Input 2 will be the snare. Add a bunch more. So we have 8 in total. This one is the rack tom plugged in to input 3. This is the floor plugged in to input 4. Then the overhead left plugged in to input 5. Then the overhead right plugged in to input 6. And we have a room left mic plugged into input 7. And a room right mic plugged in to input 8. So now we have 8 inputs all labeled and ready to go. So now let's create 6 new tracks. And we're using 6 instead of 8 because the overheads and room mics are going to be stereo instead of mono. And instead of double clicking over here, I'm going to go to the Insert menu and choose Insert Multiple Tracks, which opens up this dialog, and we could choose to add 6 tracks right here and rename these tracks. Our kick, snare, rack tom, floor tom. Now for the overheads, we're not going to use a separate track for left and right. We're going to make this track a stereo track. So you just name it overheads and this one rooms. Let's select all the tracks, put them in record. We can set up our inputs over here. This is already set up to be our kick. We'll make this one mono, snare, this one mono, rack tom, floor tom, and this one is going to be stereo using overhead left and right. And this one will be stereo using room left and right. So again, these 2 tracks will be stereo, while these will all be mono. So now we'll have our drummer play and readjust our mic pre's on our audio interface so our peaks are just above -18, but not too much more. So let's add some effects to these tracks. But keep in mind, when we add effects to our tracks, the effects aren't being recorded. We're just monitoring them. So we can always change whatever we do later. Let's solo the kick and hit the effects button. And to find our compressors, we could type in comp in the filter. Let's use Rea Comp because it comes with Reaper. Double click it, and that adds this compressor to the kick. Turn on auto makeup gain and adjust our threshold. Just to make it more punchy, let's do the same thing with the snare. We can just drag it from here to duplicate it and let go and readjust our snare. Let's hear it all together. Let's add some compression to the room mics. I'm going to use the 1175 compressor. We'll bring down the threshold and bring up the gain. Before and after. Let's hear it with the rest of the drums. And finally, let's add some EQ to our drums. We'll start with the kick. Type EQ in the filter. We'll use Re-EQ. Make it a bit bigger. Bring up the low end. Bring down the lower mids and bring up the mids. Let's add an EQ to our snare just to bring up the top end. Let's hear it all together. And do the same with the overheads to make the cymbals sound prettier. All together. That sounds pretty good right there. Let's turn the guitar and the vocal back on, and let's get ready to record the drums. We'll turn the click track back on, and again, when we record these drums, I'm going to turn off the metronome at the end. When it slows down and doesn't play to the click. Start from the beginning, hit record.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon quite slow. Windows open, you are basking. You hand out I keep this folded at the corner, so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner, so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway, shade of leisurely goodbye. In a terry cotton sweater, on this moment I depend. I keep this folded at the corner, so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner, so that
Sounding really good. Let's take the tracks out of record, which we could drag from the top down like this. Now to give the drums their own color. We'll select them all, right click, go down here to track color, set tracks to custom color, and I'm going to choose this one. Just so they look different from our scratch tracks, and as we add more tracks to the project, we can add different colors for each. So each group of tracks will stand out based on their color. Next, we're going to record the bass. We'll go back here to our audio inputs. Let's change the name of this one to Bass DI, as I'm plugging my bass directly into this input. And for now, we could delete all these. And let's create a new track for the bass. Insert new track. We'll put it up here, name it bass. Let's make it bigger, put it into record, and we'll see our input already defaults to the bass DI. Once again, we'll set our record level to about -18 dB, but not above -12. Let's have the bass player play. It's a bit too loud, so let's bring down the input on our audio interface. That looks better. Let's give our track a color. I'm going to choose this one. Now let's add some effects to this bass. But again, it's not going to be printed when we record the bass. We're just going to hear it this way on playback, so it sounds better. We can always change it later. We'll start off by compressing it using REAPER. Then we'll add an EQ to bring out the low end. About 5 dB at 150 Hertz. Just to bring out the low end. Now let's hear it with the track.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon quite slow.
I'm going to bring down the gain of the EQ to make it lower in the mix.
Windows open, you are basking.
Let's record it. Let's turn off the vocal so the bass player could lock in with the drums. sounding good. So let's take this track out of record, and let's record the acoustic guitar. Make a new track, Control T on the PC, Command T on the Mac. Put it above this one, make it bigger, put it in record, and we'll name it Acoustic Guitar. Now this is going to replace the scratch one, so let's go down here and mute it. Then we'll set up our input. I plugged in the microphone for the acoustic guitar to input 2. So we'll reopen our preferences, Control P on the PC, Command comma on the Mac, and go to the audio tab. And we'll go back in here where we named our inputs and create a new one. We'll name it Acoustic Guitar Mic and set it up for input 2. So now we can set up our input over here where our mic is plugged in. Let's give this a color, something like this. Let's get a level on this guitar. Once again, it's a bit too loud. Let's bring it down a bit. That looks better. Let's add some EQ to this to make it sound brighter or prettier. Go to the effects on the track, type EQ, and we'll choose REA EQ. Make this bigger. Let's hear it. Let's also cut off the low end to reduce any low end rumble. Right here. Sounds better. And let's record it. Now to make this sound wider, let's double it, panning one left and the other right. Let's rename this, and we'll right-click it, duplicate tracks, and we'll delete this audio. We'll pan this one to the left and this one to the right. Take this one out of record, rename this one, Acoustic Guitar Right, and let's double this part and notice how much wider it sounds, as this guitar will be in the left speaker and this guitar will be in the right speaker, creating a more dramatic stereo effect. Let's record it. It's sounding good. Next, we're going to record some piano. And I want this to play off the vocal, at least melodically. So for that reason, we're going to turn back on our scratch vocal down here. Let's make a new track over here. Put it on the top. Again, make it bigger. We'll put it into record. We'll set up our inputs in our preferences once again. And once again, this step isn't necessary. You can just name these generically, but I prefer to do it so I can remember which input is which. So I'm recording this in stereo. So the first input is piano left, and the second one is piano right. And we're making the piano like this, again in stereo. So go over here to our input, set it up to be stereo, and choose piano left and piano right. Let's give this track a color. I'll use something like this. And now it looks like this. Let's have our piano player play and check our input level. And we can see our levels are pretty good, right between -18 and -12. Let's make the piano a bit brighter. Again, not recording it, just monitoring it, so to cut through the mix a bit better. Go to the effects on the track, type EQ in the filter, and we'll choose Re-EQ again. And we'll work on the upper mids and also the highs. Also, want to cut any low end we don't need right down here below about 80. That sounds pretty good right there. Let's name the track, and let's record a pass. Again, playing off the vocal.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon quite slow.
Sounding good. Next, we're going to record some electric guitar. Take this track out of record. Let's go to our inputs and our preferences. I'm going to plug the mic for my electric guitar that I'm micing the amp with into input 1. So I'll name it that. So it'll show up on a new track. Make this smaller, make a new track, put it at the top, make it bigger, put it into record, and name this track. Let's give it a color, something like this, and set up our input, which you can see is already set up right here to my guitar amp mic is plugged into. And again, we'll get level on this track, somewhere between -18 and -12. Let's hear it now. Again, it's a bit too loud, so let's bring down the mic input on my audio interface. That looks better, somewhere between -18 and -12. Let's add some EQ to make it a bit brighter in the upper mid-range. Choose REAQ. Somewhere around there, before and after. Let's also roll off the low end right here. Just to get rid of any low end rumble. Let's hear it in the track. Sounding good? Let's record it.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking. With your hand out on me, I can't pink azaleas by your drive, shade on leisurely goodbye. In the terry cotton sweater, on this moment I keep this so
And just like with the acoustic, to make the sound wider, let's double the part. Take this out of record, right click, duplicate tracks. Let's make these both smaller, rename each track. We'll pan this one slightly to the right, about 60%, and this one slightly to the left, about 60%. Let's delete the audio on this track, put it back in record, and let's double this part.
easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking. Azaleas by your drive. Shade and leisurely goodbye. In the terry cotton sweater. On this moment I keep this forward so
Sounding good. And notice how each guitar part plays slightly differently, creating a more interesting stereo effect. Next, I'm going to record a modulation guitar to fill in the spaces in our verse over here. Notice the guitar player didn't play in these sections, so we're going to fill those in with a tremolo guitar. So the guitar player is going to play using the same amp and using some effects pedals to create a tremolo effect by playing arpeggios. So let's turn off the vocal, duplicate this track, make this one bigger, but delete the audio, give it a new name and a different color. We'll leave it panned in the same space. It's set up with the same input, and we'll use the same effects, where we boost a bit in the mid-range and cut off the low end. So let's hear that part and make sure the level looks good on our meter. That looks pretty good, and let's record it with the track. Notice how it fills in those spaces. Let's hear it with the vocal.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon quite slow. Windows open, you are basking.
Now we don't need it in the choruses, but instead of having our guitar player play it again for the second verse, we can just duplicate this part. Control on the PC, Command on the Mac, just drag it and drop it over here. Make sure it lines up.
Pink azaleas by your drive. Shade and leisurely goodbye. In the terry cotton sweater. On this moment I keep this forward.
Again, we don't need it for the other sections of the song. So let's move on to the next and last guitar part, which is going to happen during the second verse. And we'll also use some effects pedals and be more of a solo sound. Let's take this track out of record and duplicate it. Let's rename this one solo guitar. Put it in record. Give it a different color. Something like this. Delete these two pieces. Let's pan it up the middle, at least for now, and let's hear this sound. the level looks good, so let's record the part.
Pink azaleas by your drive. Shade of leisurely goodbye. In the terracotta sweat. On this moment I keep this folded at the core.
Sounding pretty good right there. Take this track out of record. Let's pan it a bit to the right to get out of the way of the vocal. And let's hear it back now.
Pink azaleas by your drive. Shade of leisurely goodbye. In the terracotta sweat. On this moment I depend. I keep this.
That sounds pretty good right there. So I think we're ready to record the vocal. We'll go back to our preferences, go back into here, and I plug my vocal mic into input 1, so we'll label it right here. Then we'll create a new track, put it up here, make it nice and big, give it a name, and give it a color. Put it into record. We'll see by default it's set up to be mono for my vocal mic, or we could change it here if we needed to. So I'll set up the mic in front of the singer and have her sing. And again, make sure the record level is good between -18 and -12. Let's hear it now.
Easy rider on the highway.
Again, it's a bit too loud, so bring down the mic preamp on the input where the vocal mic is plugged into. Hear it now.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow.
That looks better. Let's add some effects to this track. And once again, we're not printing these effects, we're just hearing it so a singer can be more inspired to give us a better performance. We'll go to track effects on this track, and let's start off with a compressor. Let's use Reacomp right here. We'll turn on Auto Makeup Gain and adjust our threshold to compress about 2 to 3 dB over here.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking. With your hand out on the wind.
That looks good right about there. And let's add an EQ after this. We'll choose Re-EQ. We'll start off by rolling off the low end as it sounds a bit boomy, right around 70 Hertz. And then we'll boost some mid-range and some top end to make the vocal sound prettier. Somewhere about 1.5 kilohertz and about 4 kilohertz. With a high shelving EQ, which brings up this frequency all the way up, making it sound smoother and more pretty in the top end. Let's hear that.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking. With your hand out on the wind.
Let's hear it before.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow.
Just brings out the top end a bit more over here. Then we're going to add some delay to give it a slapback effect. I'll choose Read Delay right here, and I'm going to pan it to the left and set it at 180 milliseconds. Bring this one down and add a tap, which is basically another delay, and pan this one to the right and make this one 210 milliseconds, which should create a slapback that's a bit different in the left side and the right side. Let's hear it.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking.
Before,
With your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the corner.
then I'm going to add some reverb. In fact, we're going to add 2 reverbs set to different sizes that we could blend together. Let's start off by turning the delay off. Let's add a reverb, type verb in the filter, and I'm going to choose reverb 8. I'm going to make this one a bit shorter, make the room about 85, the dampening at 50, which should be a bit darker, but smaller.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow.
So that's going to be the smaller one. And then we'll create another one, copy paste, and this one, the room size will be bigger, about 95, but the dampening will be less, making it brighter.
Easy rider on the highway.
Then we'll blend both of them. We'll start with the shorter one.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking.
Then we'll add in the delay.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow.
Let's hear it before.
Easy rider on the highway.
And after.
Easy rider on the highway.
It's a bit clearer and sounding more expensive with a delay and reverb mixed in. So let's try to record the part.
Easy rider on the highway. Station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking. With your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway. Shade of leisurely goodbyes. In your terry cotton sweater. On this moment I depend. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
Sounding good. Next, as promised, we're going to record some strings to go in the chorus, just to lift that section a bit. And I don't have the ability to record live string players at this moment, so we're going to do this with MIDI. Let's take this track out of record, create a new track, bring this to the top, and make this track bigger, and name it strings. We'll put it into record, change the input to be MIDI, all MIDI inputs, and all channels. We could choose the virtual MIDI keyboard if we want to use our computer keyboard to trigger MIDI, or any of my other USB MIDI keyboards, but I'll choose all MIDI inputs so we could use anything we want. We'll give it a color. I'll choose this one. And if I play my USB MIDI keyboard, we should see input. And we do. But we're not going to hear anything unless we add an instrument plugin to this track. So let's go to the track effects, and I'm going to type into the filter Pneuma. Now if you haven't installed this plugin, it's not going to show up as it doesn't come with Reaper. But it's a great free plugin that you should probably get and install, and I'll leave a link for it down in the description below. And if it doesn't show up after you've installed it, just right-click down here and choose Scan for new plugins. Then it should show up right here. Double-click it, and it looks like this. We'll go to the preset on the factory and choose Cone Concert. Play a MIDI keyboard, and it plays a piano sound. But we're not going to use that. Let's turn off the piano, and let's turn on the strings. And I'm going to change the sound from the strings ensemble to the strings section. Then we'll close this, and it sounds like this. Now the record level doesn't really matter for MIDI, but to see the notes I'm playing, let's go up here to the View menu and choose the Virtual MIDI keyboard, which will show our keyboard down here so you can see the notes I'm playing. This is only going to happen in the chorus, so let's find a part that works harmonically with the vocal in this section.
With your hand out on the rail, I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
That part sounds good, so let's record it but turn off the vocal so we can hear it better. And we'll do the same in the second chorus. So I think that sounds good, and all of our parts are recorded. Let's reorganize these tracks a bit and play it back in full.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow. Windows open, you are basking with your hand out on the rail. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway, shade of leisurely goodbyes in your terry cotton sweater. On this moment I depend. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
So that's pretty much it. That's how to record your band in Reaper. I hope you learned something, hope you could use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bingo, boys, let's go.
Bye.